everybody, my name is Richa Mehta and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. In today's video, we're going to understand the natural response to loss, also known as grief. So if you have ever experienced the loss of a relationship or of a person, this video is going to help you make sense of some of the experiences you may have gone through. Now you can feel grief physically in your body with feelings of low energy, tiredness, muscle ache, body pains, changes in your sleep or your appetite. You can also identify grief in your behavior, such as wanting to be alone, cutting off from your social circle, as well as having dreams of that loss. In addition to all of this, you may also identify your feelings that may be associated with grief. These include the feelings of guilt, anger, depression, sadness, anxiety, loneliness, and hopelessness. So now that we have understood what grief can feel like, let's get into the stages of grief. Two researchers, Kübler and Ross, in 2005 identified 5 stages of grief that a person passes through after a loss. Now, everybody necessarily does not pass through all of these 5 stages in the same order. Also, you may find yourself moving back and forth between stages till you finally resolve that grief. So let's get into this in a little more depth. The first stage is denial. When the loss first happens, the mind goes into denial. The feeling is that you really can't believe that this is happening to you. Denial is actually a protective factor because it helps you, it gives you that time or that emotional buffer to really soak in the trauma or the loss. If you were to take in all of those emotions right away, it could become overwhelming for a person. Therefore, denial helps you take it in step by step. The second stage of grief is anger. This anger can be directed towards the person who you lost, towards God, towards the situation, or even towards yourself. When we direct this anger towards ourselves, it is called guilt. We start blaming ourselves somewhere or the other for the loss that we've experienced. This takes us to the next stage of grief, which is called bargaining. In bargaining, we tend to negotiate or wish for a negotiation so that we can go back to the way things were before this loss happened. You may find yourself pleading to God to return that person, or you are ready to do anything to get that situation back in life or get that time back in life. Now, bargaining can be unhealthy because it keeps us focused on the past. We are not able to acknowledge or accept the loss in the present moment, as well as express our emotions related to that loss. Once we're able to bring ourselves into the present, it takes us to the next stage of grief, which is depression. Eventually, we find that grief takes on a more deeper level where we feel an intense sadness, a feeling of loss, despair, and loneliness. During this time, nothing seems exciting. You may not feel like doing the things that you usually like, or you may also feel like just being left alone. The experience of depression takes us to the next stage of grieving, which is acceptance. A lot of people tend to mistakenly believe that acceptance means they are cured and that loss no longer bothers them or they don't think about it. However, that is not true. A part of that loss always stays with you. Acceptance simply means that you are ready to try to move on. Now, it's important to understand that mourning and bereavement are not the same as clinical depression. Grief is the natural response of the body to loss. You have to allow yourself to experience this emotion of depression, feel that sadness, and work through it in order to make sense and meaning of it. Wishing you all the best on your journey